So if you're new to Bloxburg, here are a few building hacks which you must know if you're a new Bloxburg player. Right, let me quickly get into build mode before I faint. So the first building hack I'm going to show you is called the floating hack. And basically what this allows you to do is make items float. But before you get started, you must have the Game Pass advanced placement. So what you've got to do is grab yourself a cube from the build menu, then basic shapes, and here you will find a cube. Place this down and go back into the decoration menu, into carpets, and you can choose any carpet from this menu. So now that we have our two main items, we are now going to make an item float. So I'm just going to go with this chair just to show you guys, and I'm going to place it on top of that carpet which is sitting on top of my cube. Now if I move the cube and the carpet away, we are left with a floating chair. Now you may be thinking, what a silly hack, why would I want floating items? Well, bear with me guys, because the more you build in Bloxburg, the more you will realize that this hack is actually a godsend. So I'm going to show you a few examples how you might actually want to use this hack. So I've placed this garden trellis, and what I want to do is decorate it by placing a load of flowers up the pillar. Now the only way I can do this without the transform tool is to use the floating hack. So I'm going to grab my cube, and as you can see, I've resized it. Now I'll grab my carpet and place it on top of my cube, and on top of that I will place the flower. And if I remove the cube and the carpet, it will now look as though my flower is attached to that pillar. So what I'm going to do now is put my cube back, but this time I'm going to resize it down, and on top of it goes my carpet, and onto that I'll place my flower. I'll now continue with this process until I have a pillar full of flowers. So each time I'm resizing my cube down, placing the carpet on top, and on top of that my flower. So I've almost reached the bottom of my pillar, so what I can do now is simply remove or delete my carpet and cube. And here it is guys, I am left with this beautiful floral design on my pillar. So here's another way you can use the floating hack. So I'm going to go back into the decoration menu and grab myself a pot. So I have my cube which I'm going to resize it up, place the carpet on top, and onto that I'll place my pot. But it's important to make sure that you're placing your pot using medium grid. So now I'm going to resize my cube down, place the carpet on top, and place another pot onto my carpet, again using medium grid. And again I'm going to continue with this process until we have a stack of pots. Just imagine having a stack of pots like this in your greenhouses. And here is another way you can use the floating cube hack, but this time, as well as the advanced placement, you will also need the basement game pass. So here I've opened up a basement, and inside of that I will place my cube, resize it, and place my carpet on top. I'm now going to choose this new stool and place that on top of my carpet. Now I'll delete the cube, carpet, and basement, and look at what we're left with guys. We're left with this cute little sun canopy. So for the next building hack, you're going to learn how to make custom builds clonable and movable. So the first way you can do it is by using a placemat. So just imagine you wanted to make a custom build, but you wanted to make more than one. So here I'm just going to make a little custom pack lunch, and I know we already have these items in our fridge or in build mode, but I just wanted to show you something real quick. So here I'm just going to make a custom juice carton, and I'm going to resize this sphere to make my custom orange, and here we are. So if I click on a placemat and press C, the whole thing will light up and become orange, and this means I can clone as many of these as I can afford. Just one important thing you need to remember is that if you want your whole build to be clonable, everything must sit or touch that placemat. Now instead of using a placemat, you could substitute it with a transparent cube, and this also works with many of the other basic shapes, and I'm just going to show you real quick. And here we go, my whole little build is movable as well as now clonable. This will even work for bigger builds. So here I'm just going to show you again real quick how I'm going to make a custom bed frame clonable. So I'm resizing a transparent cube, I'm just eyeballing it for the sake of time, and now I'm going to place on each edge of this transparent cube another resized normal cube. Now I'm going to grab grab some rods and begin to build my bed frame. And the whole point of these grey cubes is to use them as a guide and a support whilst I place my rods. So the rods and the beams can be a bit daunting to use, but once you get the hang of building, hopefully you'll understand exactly how they work. And I'm not gonna lie, they are probably the most painful things to work with whilst building. But as I said, don't worry too much. The more you build, the more experience you will have, and soon enough you'll figure out exactly how to use them. So my bed frame is almost done. So now all I've got to do is delete these grey cubes. And as you can see, I am left with a bed frame which I can move around, and it is now clonable. Now the next building hack is how to use the transparent cube. So I would say you can use the majority of transparent shapes. I'm using a cube which I'm gonna resize. And then I'm going to grab this boba sign and place it onto that cube. So what we have is a sign that looks like that it is standing up on its own, when in fact it is stuck onto a transparent cube. So what I'm going to do is use a floating cube hack and place my boba sign at the top of this wall. So I've resized my cube. On top of that goes my carpet, and on top of that I'm going to grab my boba sign by that transparent cube and place it onto that carpet. And when I remove my cube and my carpet, I'm left with a floating sign. I'll just place a beam to make it look more realistic, and there we go. And here's another way you can use the transparent cube hack. Simply resize your transparent cube, and I'm going to grab a plush monkey from the baby and kids menu, and that will be placed onto my transparent cube. And I'm gonna grab myself a palm tree, then I'll use the floating cube hat to make it look as though my monkey is hanging from the tree. So there's my resized cube. On top of it will go my carpet, and then I will pick up the monkey from the transparent cube and onto the carpet that will go. Now if I delete the cube and the carpet, I'm left with my floating monkey. There is actually a hack on how to make items tilt. I have actually done a whole separate video on that because it's much more complicated, but for now I'm just going to quickly go in and use my transform tool. And there is my monkey hanging happily from the tree. Now for this last build hack, I'm going to show you how to make a custom rug. So you would want to go to the build menu and go to the subcategory of basic shapes, and you want to select this horizontal wedge. And now you want to go back into that build menu and into the subcategory of structural. Here you want to click on the wooden plank and select horizontal plank. Now you will have to switch to medium grid, and then go to your horizontal wedge and place the plank from the top to the bottom. You will know when you have done it right when your plank is straight, and when you try to pick up the wedge, you will notice that the plank will move along with it. This step is real important, guys, so take your time. We now want to clone this whole wedge with the plank. So if you click on the wedge, press C, and then it should duplicate it. Okay guys, I hope you're still following along. So at the moment we have two of exactly the same with the planks attached. So I'm now going into the decorate menu and then into the subcategory of all, and then I'm going to scroll down here and select this pink box. And now I'm going to resize this box. It doesn't have to be exactly the same size, but it needs to be big enough so that we can place a rod onto it. Right, now into the build menu, then the subcategory of structural, and then we're going to select the thin rod. And making sure you're in small grid, you will place the rod from the top of the box down to the bottom. And it's important, guys, that the rod is completely straight, right? If this hack wasn't as complicated enough as it is, it gets worse, I'm afraid. So I'm going to try to explain this to the best of my ability and not to confuse you. So at the moment, if we look at our little brown rod, we can see that it is facing south. Now we're going to have to place a painting onto this brown rod, this very tip that you can see right now. But that particular rod, depending where your plot is, must be facing the right way for this hack to work. So in other words, that rod can only face south, east, north or west. Unfortunately, I don't know the exact formula or which way the rod should be facing, but we're going to do it with trial and error. So as I said, at the moment our rod is facing south. So now we pick up the box and put it onto this horizontal plank right here. Okay, and this is what it should look like. And now we'll pick up this horizontal wedge and place it onto the plank of the other horizontal wedge. So to summarize, the horizontal wedge with the box on it must go onto the other plank of the other horizontal wedge. And if you've done it correctly, you will see that now the box is at a 90-degree angle. So the next step is to get a painting and place it on the tip of this brown rod. So I'm going to get a painting real quick and place this onto the tip of the rod. But as you can see, the painting is turning red. This is because the rod is not facing the correct way. So I'm just going to put my painting aside for now, and we're going to have to go back in and rotate that box. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. We have to start from the very beginning of the hack. So take off the box from the wedge and put the wedges back into their original position. Right, so now we have to rotate this box, and it's best to do it in medium or large grid. So remember guys, we first tried to hack where the rod was facing south, but now we're going to rotate the rod so that it now faces east. With our rod now facing east, we're now going to try the hack once again. So we're going to pick up the box and place it onto the plank of a wedge, and then that wedge we're going to pick up and put it onto the plank of the other wedge. Now we're going to grab our painting and see if it sticks onto the tip of that rod, and unfortunately it still doesn't. So we're going to undo this hack and rotate that box once again and then retry. So switch back into medium or large grid, and this time we're going to rotate our box so that the rod faces north, and then we're going to place that box onto a plank of a wedge and then pick up that wedge and place it onto the plank of the other wedge. And you know you've done it right guys, because your box should end up at a 90-degree angle. So I'm trying the painting again, and unfortunately it still isn't sticking to the tip of that rod. So we've got to take the whole hack apart again and rotate that box for the last time. So make sure you switch back into medium or large grid, and now we're going to rotate this box until the rod faces west. Now that is done, we'll start the hack again. So pick up the box and place it onto one of the planks, and then pick up that wedge and place it onto the plank of the other wedge. And here is the moment of truth. We're now going to see if our plank will stick to the tip of that rod. And there you go. Finally, with the rod facing west, the painting now sticks onto it. And here is what the whole build hack should look like. So be careful here now guys, because one wrong move means you have to do the whole hack again. So to use your rug, you have to pick it up from that pink box. If you try to pick it up from the painting, it's just going to undo the whole hack. Please be careful when you're ready to use your custom rug. Please pick it up from the pink box. So you could just leave it there until you're ready to place it, but I'm just going to grab mine now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the basement and show you how to place your rug. So I'm opening up the basement. You will need the basement pass, and then you've got to grab a cube to do the floating cube hack. So I'm resizing the cube, but it's kind of trial and error, and on top of that goes my carpet, and then I'm grabbing my rug, but remember I'm picking it up from that pink box, and then it's going to get placed onto that carpet. I'm now just going to check by removing the cube and carpet and deleting my basement. I want to just check to see if my rug is at the correct height. It seems to be okay, but it could probably go down just a little bit. So if you needed to adjust it, just reopen your basement, put back the cube, resize it a little down, place your carpet, place the rug on top of that, and then you can delete your cube, delete the carpet, and lastly delete your basement. Now I'm going to show you how to place your rug on the second floor. You basically would just have to do it using the floating cube hack. So get a cube, resize it just below the ceiling, place your carpet, and to do that I've toggled the roof off. It's this little house icon right here. It just makes it so much easier to see what you're doing. And now I'm going to place my rug onto that carpet. So toggle your roof back on, and you can see whether or not you need to adjust the height of the carpet. I have to adjust mine because I can see that little pink box just peeking out there. So all I'm going to do is resize my cube, readjust the carpet on top of that cube, and then onto the carpet I will place my rug. I'm just going to toggle my roof back on, and now I can see that the carpet is more or less where I wanted it. And that's it, guys. These are all the building hacks which you should know as a new Bloxburg player. I really hope this has helped. If you like this video, please give it a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!